Hello everyone, my name is Chandan and I welcome you all to my channel. This is the 14th video in TestNG tutorial series, and what we are going to see today is what are TestNG assertions. And right after that we are going to see different types of assertions. Number one, we are going to see hard assertion, and the second assertions that we have, that is soft assertion. We will cover that as a part of next video, that is in part number 15. All right, so watch them back to back and stay tuned. All right, so let's quickly start. We have the Eclipse open, and if you see here, we have the same project that I have been using in from the last 3 to 4 videos. And if you see here, these are the ones which I had used earlier, the packages. And for this particular tutorial, I'm using Assert, a particular video, sorry. So Assert is the package that I have created, and within this I have two classes. The first class is Assert1 and the second one is Assert2. All right, second one has some Selenium script, so which I will show you at the end of the video. All right, I'll run some script and I'll explain you the concept of assertion there. All right, but we will be focusing mostly on this class to understand what are the different assertions we have and how do we achieve assertion in TestNG. All right, so before we start, let me just read this, the definition of assertion. So an assertion is a statement in Java programming language that enables you to test your assumption about your program, right? This is an excerpt which I have taken from Google. This is something which is closest to what I believe, right? So assertion is a statement. Remember, it is a statement. It is a statement which enables you to test your assumption about your program. So you have written a program, you are expecting something out of it, and you have a statement which is test that result for you. All right. So, but if you noticed here, we have used the word assumption, which is an evil for tester. As a tester, we are not supposed to assume anything. So let's get rid of that word, and instead let's put expectation there. All right, so now it makes more sense for a tester. Let me read it again. An assertion is a statement in Java programming language that enables you to test your expectation about your program. You have a program, you have expectation, and you want to test it with a statement, and that statement is an assertion. All right, so let's quickly check that in TestNG. All right, so we have a boilerplate here, and if you see here, we have a maths maths method, and we have test annotation on top of it. So let me just quickly um, write some statement here, and sorry, b is equals to 30. Okay, so I have defined two different integer variable a and b, and I've assigned value 20 and 30. All right, now within this I am assigning another variable sum equals to a plus b, right? Basic one. Now I want to test my program. The program is sum, right? The sum is going to add 20 and 30. All right, and it is going to store that value, and I want to validate if it is adding correctly or not, right? So how do we do that assert in TestNG using TestNG? All right, so we have a class provided by, okay, before we go to the assert class, let me tell you that if it had been Java, I mean it is still Java, but if we don't have TestNG, then you would have used if and else statement, right? Like this: if sum is equals to 50, right? Then you're going to perform some action, or else if it is not, then you're going to perform some action, maybe, sorry, right? So this is if you don't have TestNG, right? But since we have TestNG, and TestNG provides us a class which helps us to assert, right? To helps us to validate what we want to validate. So let's go for it. So the class that I'm talking about is assert. All right, now if you hover on this, all right, this is not coming right now, but let me just, since we have, all right, now if you select this, when you hit on dot, you will be provided with multiple methods, right? And if you see here, we have got many options here, or .JUnit. Now let me tell you that JUnit also provides assertion, right? Okay, let me just type it here and we will pull the import statement later. Now if I see here assert equals, right? And if I hover it now here, all right, now if you see here, we have two options: import assert from TestNG and import assert of .junit. Since this is a TestNG tutorial, so we are going to import assert of TestNG. So if you see here, the import statement of TestNG has been added. Now within this, if you hover on this, I'm sorry, equals and control space, all right, so it is going to give you a bunch of options for this particular method. I'm using one of the method provided by the class assert. All right, so if you see here, we have bunch of methods here. We will come to that later, but let me just select one of the method that we have. Now if you see here, it says actual and expected. That means it is going to accept two different values. The first one will be considered as the actual value, and the second one will be considered as the expected value. So in this particular program, I mean the statement, right, the actual is being provided as a part of sum. So let me just replace it with sum. And what is the expected value? You are expecting them to be 50, right? When the addition is successful, you're expecting them to be 30 plus 20 is 50. So let me make 50. Okay, now read this statement. It says assert that these two values are equal. It is telling the class, hey, we have to assert that these two values are equal. And what is this? This is a statement, right? So the statement that we talked about, an assertion is a statement in Java program. This is a Java program that enables you to test your expectation. What is your expectation? This is the expectation, right, about your program. So this is my program and this is my expected value, and I am testing it with an actual value, right? So whenever you are doing a validation, you have an actual value and you have an expected value, and this statement will assert that, will check if your statement is correct or not. All right, so let me just quickly run this test, right? Let me just control S and right click on it and run as TestNG test. Let's see what happens. And if you see, we have, it says it's passed, right? The maths method was passed. And if I come here, result, if you see, we have everything green, right? Everything green. So this is how you test anything that you want to test using TestNG. All right. So this is the statement that I was talking about. Now, say for example, instead of 50, I'm expecting it to be 60. Just for an example, I'm expecting it's 60, but the sum will give me 50. Now these two are not going to be equal to each other, and that's why this particular statement will fail my test, right? This is going to fail. This statement will fail because they are not equal. They are going to compare them, right? It says assert equal. Are they equal? No, they are not. So that means this will fail. I mean, this will fail my test. So let's run it and see what happens. All right, so if you see here, we have an error provided by Java, assertion error, and it clearly says expected 60, that is this value, but found 50, right? So you have a clear message there, and it says failed method. This time it did not pass it. It says failed. And if you go to this, you will see a blue X on it, right? And there is a red bar there, right? And the same message that you saw in the console. Right? Now, the third thing that I wanted to talk about is this assert equals method, right? This is a method provided by assert class. It has an overloaded method as well, all right? So let me just maybe, yeah, control space when I click on it. If you see, we can compare two different values, and these values can be of any data type. If you see actual, equal, and they both are of Boolean, and then we can compare the array as well. All right, Boolean array actual, Boolean array expected. Similarly, if we byte, we have byte actual, expected, character actual, expected. All the data types that we have all of them here. right? So you can compare two different values of same data type, all right? String beat, int beat, float beat, anything, and you have set as well. See, set, right? Actual and expected, map, long, iterator, short, double, and we have string, right? String and string. We'll see that in a minute, all right? And if you see here, now there is another variant of the assert equal. The all the ones which were on top, they were expecting, that method was expecting only two arguments, but this time if you see here, we have list of methods which are expecting three arguments. Now the first one is boolean actual, boolean expected, and string message. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. We have an overloaded method of assert equals. So what is this string about? All right, the only thing that you see different from the ones we saw above, that it has a third argument called string message. And let's read this. It says assert that two booleans are equal. All right, because this is, I mean, right now I'm hovering on the boolean one, but it's not necessary it has to be boolean, it can be any data type. All right, so assert between two booleans are equal. If they are not, an assertion error with the given message is thrown, right? We saw that, and the assertion error message is thrown when they are not equal. But here, if you use this one, this particular overloaded method, it gives you an option to add a custom message. All right, it gives you an option to add custom message. I'll show you that in a minute, but let me just scroll down a bit to see if we have any more methods. So these are all equal methods. Okay, and similarly, the way we have assert equals, we have assert not equal as well. All right, so I'm not going to cover this, but I request you to play around with this method as well. Instead of assert equal, you just write assert not equal, and you will have actual and expected. All right, and you play with the data, provide the right data or wrong data, and see what happens, how does it behave. And similarly, we have the string message as well. All right, so let me just explain you what the string message is all about. Now let's consider the same case. Assert equals sum is going to be 50, but we are expecting 60. That means this will fail the statement. And since you know that this is going to be failed, you want something to be printed as per your need. So say for example, you want to print it like addition was not successful, right? So you're saying that in case they are not equal, okay, then they are not equal, that means they will fail. In that case, print this statement, right? So that you know why it was failed. Okay, though Java will give you enough details, but still you want something extra to be printed, right? It can be anything, right? You can print the name of the method as well using reflection, right? But let me just run this now. Okay, so okay, now if you see, this was failed, blue and red. And if you click on this, let me just, instead of log console, let me just open here. If you see here, it printed the Java assertion error, and it has added one additional message there. Addition was not successful. That's exactly what we added here, right? And I'm sorry, yeah. And right after that, it added the method, the message that it had already printed for the last statement. Expected 60 but found 50. Same as in the console one, right? Addition was not successful. Expected 60 but found 50. So this way, you can add a custom message for your test as well. All right, and this will be okay. Let me tell you, this will be printed. This message will be printed only if your assert fails. Okay, your assert fails. So in case if it's 50, that means my test is going to be passed. Okay, because sum is 50 and you're expecting it to be 50 as well. So in that case, this will not be printed. Okay, well, let me just show you. Run as TestNG test. Okay, so if you see here, we don't have any error, test was successful. And if you go here, all green, that means everything is fine. And you don't have the message addition was not successful anywhere in the log or report. All right, so this is what I want to tell you. All right, so quickly, I'm just recapping everything. This assert equals except two or three parameters. All right, three arguments. First is the actual, second is the expected, and third one, in case your test fails, then, and if you want to print something additionally, as a part of that fail statement in the log, then you can use that, use the third one. I mean, you can provide a message to this method. All right. So this is for assertion. I hope you have got some idea of what is assertion. All right. And say, for example, this time if you might say that you're comparing only int right now, right? So let me just go and let's compare string value. All right. And we will compare some booleans as well. Let me, instead of this, let me type string comparison. Right. Comparison, I'm sorry, I'm bad at typing. And let me just get rid of this, and let me type string first name equals to, let me give my first name here. All right, Chandan, and sorry, second name equals to Gupta. All right, so these are my strings. So I've defined two different strings, first name and second string, and they both have different values now. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do string comparison using assert. I'm going to assert two different string, or yeah, two different string. So the first thing that I'm going to check is I'm going to check if my first name is equals to my expected value. What is the expected value? I'm expecting the first name should be Chandan, right? Say for example, I have some right after this statement we have some logic in here, and that logic is doing something, and after that I'm going to assert that. I have this assert statement like the way we have, right? Just for the simplicity, I have not added any logic here, but I'm just comparing. So string first name is Chandan, and I'm asserting whether my first name is Chandan or not, right? So let me just run this. Okay, and let me not run the first test. Let me just remove that. And so this time it will run only one test, TestNG test, and let's see what happens. You see here, yeah, we can see that the string comparison was passed successfully. All right, no error. The reason is the first name has Chandan, and I'm expecting Chandan there, right? So all good. Now, in case instead of Chandan, I put it as Gupta, that is not what is that is not first name. So this will ideally fail. So let me just run it. TestNG test, and it failed, right? And if you see here, let me show you the message. The message is expected Gupta, that is the expected value that you wanted, but found Chandan, right? So I hope you understood. And if you want any message to be printed when there is a failure, right? Name is not correct or anything like, right? You can add anything like ABC, XYZ, run as, and this time it will print name is not correct along with the error that we get there. Look at the top, see name is not correct, right? And expected Gupta but not found Chandan, right? All right, so we saw the two variant of assert equals, but this is assert equals is not only the method that assert provides. Okay, we have many more methods. All right, so let me just quickly check what are they. So I'll just type assert dot, and just right after entering this, let me just cover. If you see, we have all the assert equals here, right? And both which accept 2 argument as well as 3 argument. And then if you see, we have assert, I will cover this assert false here. Okay, I'll come back to a minute. We have assert not equal. I told you that we have equal number of assert not equal accepting the same number of arguments, the way arguments 2 and 3, right? And we have not null as well. Okay, and if you see here, assert not null, it accepts an object, or it can be any string null, string int, because object is the superclass, that, right? So, and for the same, if it says you're asserting whether it should be not null, right? And this object is not returning you a null, then it is going to fail. Similarly, for we have the other variant as well, not null overloaded method object plus the string. In case it fails, then you can add the string, the message that you want to print for a failed test. Okay, similarly we have actual for not, we have not same as well. For the way we have not equals, we have not same, and there also we have actual and expected. And if you scroll down a bit, we have assert true, and then we have boolean condition. All right, so and we have fail as well. All right, so let me just type it down here. So assert, the first one is assert true. All right, and then we have some condition. All right, let me just type it, and we have, instead of true we have false. All right, and we have the last one as Assert.fail. All right, now let me tell you all of them one after the other. Now assert true, whatever the condition you have in here, all right, it will make it is going to assert that this condition should return true. All right, only if it returns true, then this assert statement will pass, else it will fail the test. All right, fail this assert statement, fail the test ultimately. And similarly, the way we have for true, we have assert false as well. That means this particular condition that you have within this bracket, it should return false. If it returns false, then the assertion will be successful, it will pass the test, else it will fail. All right, and if you use this assert fail, okay, then come what may, it is going to fail your test without any condition. All right, so let's quickly check all of them. Let me just comment this for a while. Okay, and let me just comment this as well. So we are going to see assert true. So the condition, let's write the condition as first name, all right, dot equals second name. All right, cool. All right, sorry, I'm so sorry. There we have to add the class assert dot assert true. Right, sorry about that. All right, so assert class, and this is the method, and within this the condition is first name equals second name. Now if you see here, the first name is Chandan and the second name is Gupta, right? This is not, they are not equal, so ultimately this will fail the test, right? So let me just run the test. Right click, run as TestNG test. Right, so if you see here, it says expected true but was found fail. Why it is expecting true? Because of this assert true. Earlier we had assert equal, but this time we have assert true, and it is accepting only one parameter. I'm sorry, one argument. Right, so the expected is already there. You have already mentioned that we are expecting true. Right, and this is the actual. The actual one is actually throwing, it is failing. Actually it is a false one, it is returning you false, and it is being, the false is being compared with true. That's why it is not true. Now instead of this, all right, instead of this statement, let us write the statement in such a way that it returns me true. All right, all right, so let's replace second name from here and put the right one, which is, the value is Chandan. I'm sorry, Chandan. All right, so now you know that the first name is Chandan and we are comparing it with Chandan. So this statement, this equal statement will return true, and that will be compared with true. So right click on it, run as TestNG test. Right. So if you see here, the test was passed successfully, no error, everything green and green here. Right. So we saw that. Right. Similarly, let me just comment this out and let's test for false. Right. So let me just copy the same statement here, put it in here. All right, and instead of this, since we want to fail it, I'm sorry, let me just copy this. All right, first name, since we are expecting false, so let's go with the happy path. So let me just make it Gupta. We know that first name is not equal to Gupta, right? So this is going to give me false, and it will be compared with false. So let's run this. Right click, run as TestNG false. TestNG run, test, sorry. All right. So you see here, test run 1, no failure, no escape, and the result was green, all green, right? So we saw this as well. And let's see the final one. We don't have any comparison or anything like they have all been commented. All we have is this statement, right? So, but I have written assert.fail. So let's see what does this do, right? Click on it, run as TestNG test. And you can see we have red line here and blue. It says assertion null, right? That means your test is failed for no reason, right? And the reason is nothing but you have purposely failed the test writing this statement. So if you have a case, if you have a scenario where you have written, where you have lot many things there in the method, but ultimately you want the test to fail, then all you have to do is just write this statement, right? So this statement will fail the test without without on any condition. I mean, without doing any comparison, equal, not equal, null, or anything like. All right, so no question asked, it will just fail the test for you. All right, so this is all about the different methods provided by assert. All right, and now let's go to the second part of this video, that is we are going to talk about types of assertion. Okay, so there are two types of assertion. One is hard assert and the second one is soft assert. All right, so let's we are going to cover only we are going to see only hard assert. We are not going to see the soft assert. It will be covered in the next video. All right, 15th video number 15th. All right, so let's quickly check what it is. Let me just enable this test again, or maybe let's leave this and let me enable all this test here. Okay, now if you see here, the first statement, this will fail, right? Assert equal, first name is Chandan, but we are actually comparing it with Gupta. And in case it fails, we are printing this statement, right? So, and right after that, right, right after this assertion, we have some more statements written below this assertion, right? Let me just write one more line here, right? Instead of sys out, control space, enter, and let me just, hey, I am below first assertion. All right, some weird message there. All right, now after this statement, we have four different lines of code to be executed, right? So let me just run this and see what is happening now. Right click, test, ng test. All right, now if you see here, we have a list, we have a long error here, and if you see it has failed. It was expected to be failed because this statement is failing. Okay, and if you come here, okay, you will see it printed the message name is not correct, but it did not print this sysout statement or did not perform anything like this. I don't see any result for these operations, right? You see here, no operations, nowhere. I don't see anything logged anywhere in this log, right? Why? What is the reason? What could be the reason? The reason is it has hard stop the execution the moment it failed. All right, so and that's the reason why we call this statement the assert.assertEqual or assert.assertTrue false. If we use any of the assert method provided by assert class, then it will not execute any of the lines of code below it if in case the statement, the assertion, is failed. Right, so since this was failed, that's why these were not executed. All right, so that's the reason why we call it hard stop, because hard assert, or we call it or you call it hard stop, because it has stopped the execution at this point itself. The point where the assertion was failed, it will terminate that particular terminate the execution for that method. All right, it will not affect any other method, but that particular method will be stopped then and there. All right, so we saw that just right now. But what if the assertion was successful? That means the expected and the actual values were correct. In that case, I mean, they were same. In that case, it will go and execute the next statement it has. All right, so let's run this again. Right click on it, run as TestNG test. Okay, if you see here, though it was failed, right, because we have many more assertions here, all right, but if you see here, hey, I am below first assertion, that means it has executed this statement as well, because this did not stop the execution. The reason is the statement was successful. I mean, the comparison was successful, the validation was successful. So if the validation was successful, the execution will go to the next line of code, else it will stop then and there, all right, and mark the test as fail. All right, now what was the reason this assertion was fail, right? The reason was this assertion, if you see, first name equals Chandan, this will return true and we are expecting true. This will return false. Okay, first name is not equal to Gupta, so this is expecting false as well. So these two statements were executed successfully because right, I mean, they were executed successfully. This statement did not stop this statement to execute, because we we got a success for this, and similarly we got success for this. That's why the execution went to the last statement, which is assert.fail, right? And we know that assert.fail will anyway, come what may, it will fail the statement. So let me just comment this, right, comment this and run now. Okay, now my execution should be complete, should complete, and there should not be any error, because all this statement should pass. Right click on it, run as TestNG test. All right, so no error, nothing, and it has printed the statement first assertion. All right, and let me just show you one more thing. Let me just go to 2. All right, Control S. So it is going to fail this test at this point, and it will not print this. Right click on this, run as TestNG test. Print, I mean not print, it will not execute that last statement. So we got a fail error here, and if you see here, in comparison expected true but not found. All right, failure exception. Let me just go to console. All right, I'm so sorry, I got confused with soft assertion. I will cover that part in soft assertion, where you will see that all my assertions, despite my assertions were failed, those all the assertions, the reason for failure will be printed here. But here in hard assertion, you don't have a choice. I mean, nothing will be printed except the reason for which the assertion was failed. Okay, so I got confused with the soft assertion, my bad. All right, so I guess I have covered all the things that I wanted to. All right, but before we close this video, I wanted to show you the same concept being implemented in a application. I'm using an application, sorry. So if you see here, we have set up method, and within this I have used before method. I told you that all the preconditions, prerequisite are done in setup as a part are setup, and they would be the method would be with any of the before annotation that we have. So for this class I've used before test, and if you see here, all I'm doing is setting the property for Chrome driver, and then invoking browser Chrome driver, and you can ignore this line. I told you that I'll use this line to focus my current monitor, because I have multiple monitor. But if you are scripting only with one monitor, you have to get rid of this line. All right, and after that we have driver.manage windows maximize. This is maximizing it, and I'm setting an implicit wait for 10 seconds, and then I'm launching this URL. All right, and right after that I'm testing my application. All right, and if you see here, what I'm going to do is all right, let me just open this application once, and I will show you what I'm going to perform, what I'm performing using this test. So this is my Chrome. Let me put it here, and sorry, it is loading. Okay, now this is the username and password. I'll punch in username and password, and I'll hit login. And right after that, I'm going to validate this particular message is displayed or not, and then I'm going to log out. And right after logout, and I'm going to validate whether this particular message is displayed or not. All right, and then I'll close this application. So my application is launched, and within test I'm performing these action. I'm finding the username and passing this value. I'm finding the password, passing this value, and then I'm printing a statement which says signing in. All right, just a debug statement, signing in, and then I'm clicking on the login button. All right, and then I am fetching the message, right? The message that we saw, you logged into a secure area message. All right, I'm getting the text and I'm saving it in a variable, string variable, msg. And then if you see here, we have assert equal. Within that, I'm checking whether msg contains this particular message or not. All right, so this particular statement that we have here, message contain this will return me a boolean value that will be true or false. If it finds that particular message in this message, then it will return me true, else it will return me false, and I'm comparing it with an expected value that is true here. So I'm expecting a true out of this. All right, and assert will validate that. And right after that, I am printing another statement, debug statement. Sign in was successful. All right, so before I click on login, I am just printing signing in, and once I'm logged in successfully and I validate the message, I'm printing this statement. And after that, I'm finding the logout button, I'm clicking on it, and then I am storing the message that will be displayed for our logout in a separate another variable, message logout. And I'm printing another debug statement, signing out, after I click on that logout button. And then again, I'm validating whether this particular message that I capture on the screen after logout contains this particular message. All right, and then I'm expecting it to true. This should give me true. All right, and the expected is true. And then I'm finally printing sign out was successful. And then finally at the end, I have close Chrome method, which is doing nothing but quitting the driver. All right, so let me just minimize this as well. All right, and let me just run this. Okay, right click on it. This is the second class I have. Okay, it's 37 minutes. I have taken a long time to explain you because I have seen other videos, they are taking hardly 15 minutes or 20 minutes to explain things. But I hope that, despite taking longer time, I'm explaining you to your expectation. Right. So it has done everything. It has signing was successful, and then sign in was successful, sign out was successful, close Chrome. Okay, everything was good. And then in here, if you see, test step was the only test that was performed, and everything is green. So we are good on this part. But let's see, say for example, instead of secure area, this is the first assert statement. Let me just add 2 extra exclamation in that message. Right, we know that we have only 1 exclamation message, but here I am expecting 2 exclamation message just to fail this test. And as I told you that since this is going to fail, none of this will be executed. Right, let me just right click on it and run as TestNG test. I wanted to keep this video as short, but I think I was carried away again. All right, so if you see, we have only two statement printed here, signing in and close Chrome. The close Chrome was printed because we have before after statement after test, which is always called after all the test has been executed, right? So, but if you don't understand after test and before test, then I highly recommend you to go to my playlist, TestNG tutorial playlist, and go for the annotations video. We have 2 different videos, both are 1 hour long, and I have explained you in detail what are they and how do they behave. All right, so uh, go and watch that video if you haven't already. All right, so you notice that we have the test was failed and the reason was expected true but found false. Right, so this was the reason for this particular statement, and nothing else was printed. All right, had it been passed, then this all would have printed. We saw that in the first uh, execution, right? Because there was no difference between the message that we were expecting. So That's why all of them were passed. So this is all I have for hard assert. All right. And the reason we call it hard assert is because it stopped the execution for that test then and there the moment it fails. All right, nothing will be executed. All right, but in case you have but in case it pass, it allows the execution to go ahead. All right, so this way you saw that we have multiple assert statement within one test. You can have, okay, and you cannot have. I mean, that's up to you. How do you design your test? You can divide this particular logout statement in a as a separate part of as a separate test. All right, and you can do that. All right, but just for the simplicity, I have clubbed all of them together and within a test to show you that we can have multiple assert statement, and in case one fails, the other will not be executed. Or I mean, not the other one, just the line after that will not be executed. I mean, all the lines after that will not be executed. I'm sorry about that. All right. So thank you very much for having staying with me for so long. 40 minutes. I understand. This is a simple topic, but I'm sorry for this. All right, so let's meet in the second video where I will explain you soft assertion, which is even more interesting. All right, but you need to know both the assertion, because most of the interview questions, they are made from many different topics of assertion, but hard assertion and soft assertions are one of the most important ones. All right, so don't skip that part. If you have seen this video for 40 minutes, I believe you will watch the skip. I'm sorry, you will watch the soft assertion as well. All right. So see you next time in the next video. All right. So have a good time ahead.